Hey, let's do this. This is Mr. Longo here, and we are going to talk about factoring trinomials that have a leading coefficient that's greater than 1. So I'm going to tell you that you're going to want to make sure that you are paying very close attention to this video because this is the first time that factoring is going to get a little bit difficult. Now, I've seen people do this type of factoring in so many different ways. I've seen a guess and check method, which drives me nuts because why do you just want to keep on guessing and checking? To me, that's just too much extra work. I've seen a Batman method, which I'll show you just for fun because it just looks really cool. And then there's the splitting middle term method. That's the method that I think works the best, which is pretty much the exact same thing as Batman without all the messy squiggles and stuff. So I'm going to show you splitting the middle term first. So when you think about multiplying, you would, do the whole FOIL thing where you multiply the first one times the first one, and then the first and the last, and then the ones in the middle and all that kind of jazz. But it had a procedure. Guessing and checking, that's not a procedure. You just keep on guessing. What if you had one? I can write a factoring problem where you might actually guess 8 times before you finally get the correct answer. Why would you want to do that? So what I talk about is splitting the middle term. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind is the leading coefficient is no longer 1. So we have a 2 at the beginning and a 3 at the end. So what you're actually going to do is think of two numbers that would multiply to 6x squared and add to 5x instead. So what you're going to do is you're going to split that middle term. So what would multiply to 6x squared but add to 5x? And that would be a 3x and a 2x. And what you did is you just split that middle term. So we're just going to write the rest of the equation. So we have 2x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 3. Now, if we were multiplying, we would put those two together, but we're not multiplying. We're going backwards. So what you want to do now is wrap the first two in parentheses and wrap the second two in parentheses. And what you're going to do is factor out the GCF, or the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor of 2x squared and 3x is just an x. And that's going to leave us with 2x plus 3 on the inside. And the second one doesn't have a GCF except for 1. And when you're using the splitting the middle term method, you must factor out a GCF as simple as 1. Leaving you with 2x plus 3. Now see, if you did this correctly, you know you did it correctly because the inside of both of these is the same. So then you're just going to have to put your GCFs together, and you have x plus 1 times 2x plus 3. And you are done with this problem in one step, or in one attempt. Although it might have taken 3 steps to do it, it's a lot better than guessing and checking 5, 6, 7 times before you get the answer correct. So what I want to do is show you where that came from now. So we're going to rewind and go back in time for a minute when you learned how to multiply x plus 1 times 2x plus 3. And one of the things you might have been taught is you just split. This is x times 2x plus 3, and then you multiplied everything by 1 times 2x plus 3. And if you think you've never done that before, you did. You just did x times 2x, and then you did x times 3. And then you did 1 times 2x, and then you did 1 times 3. So that's basically what we had here, and that's why you have 2 terms of the 2x plus 3 when you were multiplying. See? Got it right there. 2x plus 3 times 1, 2x plus 3 times x. And that's just, it just came from foiling. So then after you did that, after you did all the steps, you had 2x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 3 after you multiplied both of those. And those guys got added together to give you a 5x. That's why I like to do it this way, because you're just working backwards. You're just undoing a multiplication. And again, that was just old school showing you where it came from. We're going to talk about the next one now. So the next one, I'm just going to show you Batman. Why am I going to show it to you? No other reason than it looks cool. So the same thing, you still have to multiply the first term and the last term together. 6x squared times a negative 2 is a negative 6x squared. And then you need to think of two numbers that will multiply to that negative 6x squared and add to a negative 1. And that would be a negative 3x and a positive 2x. But then you have to bring down the first term because he's still part of the equation. And then you have to bring down the negative 2. And the reason why we did that, of course, is because we're just splitting the middle term. That's all we did, was split the middle term again. But this time we drew some fancy lines. And you could already see that we could just, easily put a couple swoops there. Throw that guy right there, little wing, little tail. I'm going to get some little scary eyes, and there you go. You got your Batman. But again, all those little fancy lines are just showing you where to put some stuff. It's not actually part of the thing. So really, it's the same thing. You wrap the first two and the last two in parentheses. You factor out your GCF of 3x squared and a negative 3x, which would be a 3x, leaving you with an x minus 1. And then over here, you can factor out a 2, leaving you with x minus 1. And then you've got your outsides, or your GCFs. You put them together to make their own binomial of 3x plus 2. And just like I said before, the insides would be the same if you did this correctly, so you have your x minus 1. So your final answer is 3x plus 2 times x minus 1. And that's it. That's how you factor with a leading coefficient greater than 1. So there are two more examples here. I would like you to pause the video and try to handle those two on your own. And as soon as you're ready, click play and let's see if you got them right. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm a splitting the middle term guy. So all I'm going to do is take my 10x squared and my negative 10 and keep those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of two numbers that multiply to a negative 100 and add to a negative 21. Because remember, you have to multiply the first term and the last term to get your multiply to number. And that, of course, would be a negative 25x plus 4x. So negative 25x plus 4x is the negative 21. They do multiply to negative 100, so we just split that middle term. So now you're going to wrap the first group and the second group in their own parentheses, factor out a GCF of 5x for the first one, leaving you with 2x minus 5, and then we're going to factor out a 2 from the second one, leaving in with a 2x minus 5. Again, our insides are the same. Our GCFs, we put those together to make 5x plus 2, and then a 2x minus 5. And if you got that, you are good to go. I hope you caught the curveball. You could factor out a 2x here first. That's the first thing you should always look for, is a greatest common factor. Soon as you do that, you have your 4x squared minus 4x minus 3. From there, you split your middle term again. So we already have our 2x outside. We can leave them there if we want to. And then we're going to have 4x squared and a negative 3 on the end. And we multiply those together, we get a negative 12. So what will multiply to a negative 12 but add to a negative 4? And that would be a negative 6x and a positive 2x. Continue by wrapping those first two and the second two in parentheses, and factoring out GCFs again. So do not forget about him, but just ignore him for this step. What is the GCF of 4x squared and 6x, and that would be another 2x, leaving you with 2x minus 3 on the inside. You do have to factor out a simple 1, leaving you with 2x minus 3 on the inside, but that guy's crucial. You cannot just forget about him and say they have no GCF. Take these two, put them together to make a term. You have 2x plus 1, and you still have your 2x minus 3, but do not forget about that GCF of 2x that we took out at the beginning. And you can just do a quick little multiply in your head. X times x is x squared times another x is x cubed, and that's where we started with. All right, but that's how you factor with a leading coefficient greater than 1. That is the one that is going to be a little tricky from time to time. So again, you could always just guess and check and have a bunch of fun doing so, but I would rather just get it out of the way in 3 steps rather than potential 5, 6, 7, 8 steps. You never know. It all depends on how good of a guesser you are. This is Longo, and I'm out. See you, bye.